Good afternoon, all. CamelbackTrading.org coming to you this Thursday afternoon, October 7th, and we are looking at window traders, market profile of SPY, IWM, and triple Qs. Very disappointing finish for the bulls. However, it's still a good day overall. We have a pretty decent sized gap of over $3 in ES and SPY. Incredibly, from yesterday's low to today's high, we couldn't fill that gap from the September 28th by 22 cents. Incredibly mechanical. We were 8 wide after I period. I thought the odds of going 9 wide were excellent. In fact, I lost $1 bet when we were at half back. I said we would get 9 wide before we got today's low. Now, the one thing that had me a little apprehensive about that is we hadn't taken out the IB until the last minute of the day, basically. So when we couldn't take out the IB high, I knew that possibility was there, but I didn't expect it to the downside. For my money's worth, that was just weak longs getting out. All the volume, as you can see, was done on the upper end of the profile. And with the job number tomorrow and with the big move from yesterday's low all the way up to today's high in the gap, I think weak ones just got out. We barely probed. I'm not going to even use A's low. The other ones did basically the same thing, but we all held our gaps. Now, triple Qs, they don't probe. They have 8 wide, so they have, I would use L as the afternoon rally high and the day in the low, and they have their gap. Russell, I would also use L as an afternoon rally high, the day and the low. They were only 7 wide, and they have their gap. And for us, all I'm using is the day's high and the day's low. Now, I'm not going to ignore 8 wide if we get there tomorrow, but I won't carry it forward. It almost looks like when you look at the profile, change took place. Here, A's high and G's low. It's like 2 separate days. Once J got back up, once J opened and got below A's high, we never saw it again. Now, at that time, I never expected that and actually took a pretty decent sized long down here, and we'll get over to that in a minute. And I did okay on it, but I never would have thought, and thank goodness I didn't get stubborn to see this towards the end of the day. We gapped higher. We didn't see the opening to the last 2 minutes of the day. Buyers had everything in control, basically to the last couple of minutes of the day, and obviously the last 2 hours. As far as my trades, when A opened and ran up, I took a short initially against the overnight high and the gap we were in. 441 puts. It backed off enough for me to have a decent trade. Then when we did back off, right before the second 15-minute bar open, I bought size of the 438 calls, and that popped up nice for me. Once again, like yesterday, now it didn't go as high, but it went pretty high. I didn't hold it nearly as long as you see A and B going, but it was still a very, very good trade. C, I also took a long. Filled the single prints. Before we filled the single prints, I took a long when it pulled back, went back up, did okay on that. Then in D, when we came in, I started a small one at C's low, added in the singles, added a decent size right at D's low, and then it was about 50 of them. I was going to put another 100 on, I didn't, and it would have paid off because we went right back up. And then the only other trade I took was in J. So when J started going down, I started a small call at D's low, added between half back and D's low. I added 20, added another 20, and I added 60 right around half back. It gave me enough of a push up where I took off a bunch for profit, but then I was still holding 40 when when K opened and K tried to push up. I didn't add, and then as soon as K took out J's low and started getting any legs, I said, I'm out. So I gave back a bunch of what I made. I still made on the trade. Nothing what I thought I would. When you have higher value, an 8-wide POC, higher indices, gap holding, overnight high gone, everything in your favor basically, I thought the odds of going back to POC were very good. Obviously not the case, but I didn't get stubborn and I got out. And that was my last trade. As far as destinations, for the upside, again, I'm not ignoring the 8 wide. I would probably take a look. I'm not writing these down as a hard reference, but It would be interesting if we get to A's high and or G's low and fail up there tomorrow. But our real first destination is today's high at 441.68, and then filling the gap at 441.90, a 22-cent gap. Then above that, we don't have anything to 443.16, 11 wide from the 27th, and 444.05 weekly high. Now, if we don't make a new high tomorrow, today's high is the weekly high, and that becomes a very, very important one, right? Because we're still down in a weekly. For the downside, we have today's low of 438.20, and then filling the gap at 435.12. It's a 308-point gap. And then we have the price probe and everything I gave you yesterday with the single prints. So the buyers are still healthy. I think this was just a case of week longs getting out before the job number, and the market came too far too fast between yesterday's low and today's high, right? We rallied from 427.54 to 441.68. We rallied $14. So kind of not surprised, but I wouldn't have expected to give back the entire day. And then, as far as the charts go, I'll just show you the daily. Now, again, the monthly is balanced to down. Weekly is definitely down. Daily is up. The gap is my main focus. Now, this is an ugly candle, right? We even closed below the 20. We were above the 20 by $3 this morning. We closed below it by 9 cents. Now, again, one day doesn't make a market, but for sure you don't like to see that if you're a buyer. So it remains to be seen. What happens next? Do we go higher and finally fill this gap and get to 50? Or do we stay below the 20, fill this gap, and come right back into balance? Well, if we do, guess what? July's low comes into play again. I thought this morning when we ripped up to the high of the day, if we stayed up there for the day, I would have thought maybe we just tested the balance and now snap back. But that is still on the table right now. Tomorrow should be a good barometer of where we stand when we close tomorrow. If we close inside of today's range or higher, we're okay. If we close below today's low and fill this gap, well then once again, July's low comes into the crosshairs. I hope you had a good day trading. Have a great night, and we'll speak prior to the opening tomorrow.